Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to Apple Tech Talks, and finally, this is long overdue, but this is finally my iPhone 11 Pro review. So I wanted to do something a little bit unique. I didn't want to do obviously a normal review that everyone else, probably you've watched hundreds of videos already on the iPhone 11 Pro. I don't blame you, it took me a long time to make this video, so I'm sure to satisfy your curiosity you probably ventured into some other videos, but don't do that again. Anyway, today for this video we're going to be discussing, as you probably guessed by the title, 11 myths of the iPhone 11 Pro. So, you know, in daily conversation I find a lot of people talking about this phone. I think the fact that it has 3 cameras is probably the most talked about topic. I feel like the fact that the changes aesthetic of the whole back essentially is sort of a hot topic of conversation right now. And a lot of people seem to have preconceived notions of the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max, and today I'm here in this video to talk about 11 myths of the iPhone 11 Pro that can either be positive or negative. Basically, I'm going to be debunking 11 myths. And apart from the information I'll provide in this video, of course you can check the link in the description below. I'll leave a link so you can check out some of the specs and some of the more easy to understand information about the experience using the iPhone 11 Pro. The first myth I'd say is that there's nothing new with the design. That's just not true. I'll just give you a really easy look right now at the iPhone 11 Pro. So on the front it just looks like a regular the iPhone 10 and newer. So you can see it pretty much looks the same, and it is a bit chunky on the sides now, so it is slightly thicker than it used to be. And then making your way over to the back, I've got the midnight green color, which is not very prominent, and we'll talk about that later, but basically you can see that they've really cleaned up the back design as well. So this is one of the biggest design changes about the 11 Pro that I really like, is that not only have you got the 3 cameras, which after a while a lot of people say it looks ugly, but after using it for a while you really do get used to it, and even for some people, at least for me, come to like it. I actually feel like, you know, while it definitely looks extravagant, it definitely has a certain feeling of like I have the newest iPhone, and whether or not that's a good feeling to have, it definitely, for me at least, and I know for a lot of people who buy this phone, that's one of the reasons they buy it. It's just to have the newest iPhone. It's just like a feature that really lets you know that not only the camera is brilliant on this, but that they're the newest iPhone. So you can see that there are no more labels at all on the back, no markings other than the very clean Apple logo in the middle. And basically you also have this really nice matte finish now, and you've got sort of like a glossy finish around the camera cutout. And then of course the sapphire crystal lenses that you've always gotten on the iPhone cameras. And then on the sides it is also glossy, so it can be a fingerprint magnet. I found myself, I don't know if there are any fingerprints right now, but I found myself in the past having to rub off fingerprints. As you can see, I really like the design as well of what they did. I don't think it's any different from the iPhone 10 or a 10s, but coming from an iPhone 6s, it's a big change. And then the power button as well, I don't think this is a new design either, but it's also, if you're upgrading from a different design, you can see that it's a much bigger pressable button, so it's a lot easier to power your phone on and off. There's clearly a difference with this. In addition, the design with the speakers is different now. It's using Dolby Atmos technology now, and Apple claims it gives sort of like a 3D audio type experience, and I didn't really believe that. I thought they were just over advertising right there, but then I actually used the speakers on this guy, turned it up to max, watching a movie, watching a TV show, even listening to music. It actually sounds really nice. It sort of encompasses the whole area, and the sound blares from all sides, obviously from the bottom, but also from the top and the back. And while there's no front-facing speakers, which I'm sure would sound a bit better, it's good speakers. I think you'll be pretty pleased with the result as far as smartphone speakers go. And then also it has IP68 dust and water resistance, which is a step up from IP67. You don't really have to worry at all about getting a little wet in the rain, sweating with it. If you drop it in the pool or something like that, it should be perfectly fine. So the second is that this phone is blazing fast. Yeah, that's true to a certain extent, but at the same time, no, because iOS 13 is still quite laggy, and glitchy. I've had several problems. I've even updated to iOS 13.1 and I'm still having problems. I hope this gets better as time moves forward. I am pretty sure it will, but as for the time being, using this phone has not been anything extraordinary. Of course, it was faster than my iPhone 6s, but it's not anything that I can say is worth upgrading for, of course. The Apple A13 chip is insane, of course, and is beyond a lot of other competitors. Pretty much since the iPhone 6s, Apple has just been clearly ahead of the game on their chips. I mean, they still even ship iPhone 7 chips, which is the A10 Fusion chip, in their new iPads, which I made a video on. We can click on the card right there. The chips are fine for several generations before. I don't think getting this phone for the processor is a worthy investment unless you're going from a much older phone. And I'll talk about later which phones that you currently have are worth upgrading to this phone for. And then the third myth that I want to debunk is that Pro means Pro. No. For this phone, it definitely does not. Apple and just a lot of companies in general like to just slap the name Pro on these things. I'm sure you've heard about it from other YouTubers, and I certainly feel the same way. I don't feel like you can call this iPhone a true Pro. For example, there's no USB-C. The notch is still much bigger than a lot of the other competitors who sell their products for a lot less. There's no 120 Hertz refresh rate. So this means that this is still stuck on 60 frames per second on the display, and it's not a special experience in any way. It just feels a lot like a new consumer phone. It doesn't seem like something that's made for professionals. So I don't think the name Pro is really appropriate. I hope that for the next generation, next year, not only they're going to change the whole design, but I do hope that they implement USB-C and the 120 Hertz refresh rate, because those are two features that have been long overdue in the iPhones. So the fourth is that the display hasn't really changed. That's not true to a certain extent. Sure, the notch hasn't changed for sure. It has not gotten any smaller, and that's definitely one thing that still really bothers me about this phone. But it does have 300 nits more brightness and 700 more nits for HDR movies / photos, and it really does show. I've never had a problem in the daytime, which I did have on my old phone, my iPhone 6s, of the screen being too dim in outside settings. There's also a 2 million to 1 contrast ratio now, and overall the display just looks great, even a little bit better than last year's. And especially if you have a phone from a few generations ago, this will be a night and day difference. So the fifth myth that I want to debunk, that's a bit of a tongue twister, fifth myth, is that the triple lens cameras are excessive. Yes, if you're approaching it from a very money-aware approach, then yeah, I can totally see why you would say that. But there are a lot of things about this phone that are a lot better because of that third camera. So the third camera is essentially an ultra-wide camera, and it actually comes in use for a lot more often than you might think. A lot of the times you don't realize how zoomed in your phone is compared to what you're actually seeing with your eyes. As you know, an iPhone camera does not mirror exactly what you're seeing out of your own eyes. And as a result, a lot of the times I'll just be sitting somewhere and I want to take a picture of what I'm looking at, and I'll have to step back a few paces. But sometimes that's not possible, or sometimes I just don't want to. And that's when you pull out your iPhone 11 Pro or 11 Pro Max, open the camera app, and just go to 0.5. So I'm going to actually show you right now what that looks like, because I'm sure you're all wondering. So basically you see at the bottom here you have 1x, 2x, and 0.5x. So you would actually just go to 0.5x, which I think is on this side, and there you go. It's obviously still not a perfect representation of what you're seeing out of your own eyes, but it's still pretty darn good. And honestly, the quality is still quite good, and it just overall it's a great experience. Not only that, but the high key light mono filter has done wonders actually. Also, you've got night mode, which is one of my favorite features and something that the iPhone 6s with the one single LED flash, which is not cutting. You've also got audio zoom, so as you zoom into a video, the audio also zooms in, so you can actually hear better what the people who are further away are saying. Quite good and quite advanced mic detection technology. You've actually got a pretty decent list there of things that you can do with this third camera. And in general, because every photo you take, even if it's a normal photo, you are still utilizing all three cameras that are combining intelligently to make one single cohesive picture. Because you are doing that, you will get better quality regardless of what picture or video you're taking. So in general, you'll just see the difference in day to day. It's really unrivaled, honestly. The iPhone 11 Pro has some of the best camera hardware in the market right now, and you will not be disappointed. So the sixth myth that I want to debunk is that battery life is 4 hours longer. So yes, that is true, and I haven't exactly tested that specifically, but the battery is quite good on this guy, especially coming from, I keep saying this, but coming from an iPhone 6s, the difference was just night and day. Even under heavy usage, I can't kill this guy in one day, and it's just insane how well the battery lasts. I love Apple's decision to include the fast charger out of the box. So that's an 18-watt power brick, and it charges the phone insanely fast. Apple promises up to 50% in 30 minutes. I'd say that's about accurate, maybe even more. I put this on the plug for just a few minutes and it's already charged 5 to 10% battery. But the myth here that I want to debunk is that you should buy this phone just for the battery. Sure, the battery on this is perfect, but so were the batteries on the past several phones since the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. I mean, honestly, it's really something you can't complain with, and if you really want the fast charger, you can just go buy one separately. It's not something that comes exclusively with the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. So I would tell you, if you're having issues with battery life, buy a power bank or just buy a fast charger. I wouldn't spend your money on a whole new phone just for the battery life. So the seventh myth that I want to debunk is that the new midnight green color is sick. It's not sick. It's cool, but it's not something that I feel is a game changer. It's more of a lighter black color with a hint of dark camel green. So you can give me your thoughts on what this looks like. Personally, I don't think that this is anything close to midnight green. I personally don't think that it looks that different. A lot of people at school also have been telling me it doesn't look that different, so there's that as well. I don't think that it's worth it just to buy the new color. Number 8 is that the U1 chip is useless. So in case you didn't know, the U1 chip is a special new chip added to the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro, which basically allows it to more accurately detect location of certain things. The only application right now is with AirDrop. So if you click AirDrop out of the drop-down menu, you actually will be able to share with people nearby a lot more quickly than you were able to before. Instead of using Bluetooth technology, it's actually scanning for iOS devices in the vicinity. I can see a lot of potential for this. This has so much potential. I think the one that comes to most people's minds, at least for me, is a sort of a setup for Apple's Tile Mate competitor, which I made a video on right there on my main channel. Go click on that if you want to watch that. So I'd say that the U1 chip is not useless at all. In fact, is not only quite useful right now, but it has a lot of potential for the future, and I can't wait to see what else Apple does with this. So the 9th myth that I want to debunk is that Face ID is 30% faster and can work from all these new angles. No. Yes, it's a little bit faster. I mean, I can show you right now how fast it goes. It goes pretty fast. Definitely noticeably faster than the iPhone 10 and slightly a bit faster than the iPhone 10s, but I don't think the fact that even if it is 30% faster, I don't think that's a game changer. I don't think that's a compelling reason to buy this phone. In addition, with the new angles, a lot of the angles do not work with this phone. For example, let me show you. If I tilt the phone at an angle like that, it doesn't go. If I tilt it like that, still no. No, 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 no. Now yes. So the 10th myth about this phone is that it is too expensive. So regardless of whether you should buy it or not, which I will answer very soon in this video, the argument that's saying this phone is too expensive, sure. I mean, yeah, Apple is pricing itself more as a luxury brand nowadays, and I agree these phones, considering what they can do compared to what phones of a few $100s less can do, yeah, I suppose so. But I don't think that's a valid reason not to get this phone. If you think about it, a lot of the competitors that Apple's competing with, namely Samsung and Samsung and Google, not Microsoft. Microsoft is not a competitor in the phone business. Samsung and Google with the Pixel and the Galaxy, I do think that at least Samsung is pricing their phones at very similar prices. So I don't blame Apple at all for pricing, not that I don't blame them, but I just don't think that your gripe should specifically be with Apple. If you just don't want to buy expensive phones, then you shouldn't be watching this video at all. I'm talking about if you're thinking about buying the 11 Pro over another similarly priced phone, then your gripe shouldn't be with the price, because you're not one of those people. If you are one of those people, then Apple has other options for you, such as, in this case, the iPhone 11. And this is just a fact of the market as the tech market sort of changes, and smartphones are just starting to get more and more expensive. Even the lower end models, although you can get something for very cheap nowadays compared to 10 years ago, just as a whole, even OnePlus is starting to up their prices as well. And they were sort of known for having very modestly priced phones, so I don't think that this is a problem with Apple or iPhone inherently. This is just a fact about how the market is changing. And finally, the 11th myth I want to debunk about the iPhone 11 Pro is that I need to get the new iPhones. So yeah, I don't think it's a worthy upgrade for most people. In case you haven't realized at this point, even though I did get the phone, I have upgraded from a phone from 4 years ago, which is a bit later than what most people have upgraded from, and I stuck with the iPhone 6s for a long time. It was a good phone and it served me well, but there were problems with it and I didn't realize how much nicer it is to use this big display. And as much as I love Apple, the upgrade, I'd say, is definitely not worth it to anybody who has an iPhone 10 or later. I don't think there are really any substantive changes with this phone compared to the phones from the last 2 years. I'd say iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, if it's significantly breaking down, then yeah, but I'd probably say get the 11 at that point. The 11 Pro, I just feel like it's not that big of a difference, and you're spending several hundred more dollars, I think about $300 more at the starting prices for this phone. I don't think that the added features is making it worth it that much in 2019, especially for someone who's really budget aware. And I think for people who have the iPhone 6s and below, if you're okay with spending $300 more for the 11 Pro than the regular 11, then definitely do so. But if you're not, then yeah, get the 11. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed my interesting take on the iPhone 11 Pro and sort of the unique review format I've tried to do here. If you do like it, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already and leave a thumbs up on this video. If you didn't like it, just click off. You can leave a mean comment if you want. I don't advise you to because I probably won't answer it, but you can try. And as always, I will see you very soon in the next video. Actually, I think I'm going to make a Generation Z Gadgets video soon, so stay tuned. It might be on the new Pixels. We'll see. I haven't thought about it yet. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.